In a large courtroom filled with reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers, the atmosphere was tense. Everyone leaned forward in their seats, eager to catch every word spoken. At the center of it all stood Elon Musk, the billionaire known for his bold ideas and controversial statements. His presence alone was enough to draw attention, but today the stakes were higher than ever. The room buzzed with anticipation as lawyers shuffled papers, microphones crackled, and cameras clicked incessantly. This wasn't just another legal battle. It felt like a moment that could define Musk's future. The judge overseeing the case was a no-nonsense man in his late 50s, with sharp eyes and a commanding voice. He had earned a reputation for being strict but fair, and he wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. The case revolved around one of Musk's tweets, a single message posted online that investors claimed had misled them, causing significant financial losses. While such disputes weren't new to Musk, this hearing carried an unusual weight. It wasn't just about money or business. It was about accountability, responsibility, and the power of words in the digital age. As the proceedings began, the judge listened intently to arguments from both sides. Lawyers representing the investors painted Musk's tweet as reckless and irresponsible, accusing him of using his massive platform without considering the consequences. On the other hand, Musk's legal team argued that the tweet was misunderstood, taken out of context by those looking to exploit any misstep. Back and forth the debate went, with each side presenting evidence, citing precedents, and trying to sway the judge's opinion. All the while, Musk sat quietly at the defendant's table, occasionally jotting down notes or whispering something to his attorneys. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Musk appeared calm, almost too calm. Some interpreted his demeanor as confidence, while others saw it as indifference. Either way, it was clear that he was used to being in the spotlight. Over the years, he had faced countless challenges, from technical failures with his rockets to public backlash over his unconventional leadership style. Yet, here he was, still standing tall, still pushing boundaries. As the hours dragged on, the tension in the room grew thicker. Reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks, capturing every detail, knowing that whatever happened next would make headlines around the world. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the judge turned his focus directly to Musk. Leaning slightly forward, he fixed his gaze on the tech mogul and spoke in a firm tone. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice cutting through the hum of activity in the courtroom. "You need to watch your language. Your words carry immense weight, and they have real-world consequences." For a brief moment, there was silence. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see how Musk would respond. Would he apologize? Offer a promise to be more careful? Or perhaps argue back, defending his right to speak freely? Instead of reacting immediately, Musk took a deep breath and paused. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of some of the people present before finally settling his gaze back on the judge. A faint smile played on his lips, almost imperceptible, but noticeable nonetheless. Then, in a voice steady and deliberate, he delivered a response that no one expected. "If my words can change stock prices," he said slowly, enunciating each syllable, "imagine what they could do to inspire humanity." The impact of his statement was instantaneous. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by murmurs of disbelief and admiration. Some people shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether to take his words seriously or dismiss them as another example of Musk's flair for drama. Others exchanged glances, nodding subtly as if acknowledging the depth behind his seemingly simple remark. The judge, however, did not appear amused. His expression remained stern, though there was a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Clearly, he hadn't anticipated such a philosophical twist in the middle of a legal proceeding. After a moment of contemplation, he reminded Musk that the court was not the place for grand speeches or motivational quotes. "Let's stay focused on the matter at hand," he said, bringing the discussion back to the specifics of the case. But even as the trial continued, it was obvious that Musk's words had left an impression, not just on those in the courtroom, but also on anyone who would later read about the exchange. Outside the courthouse, Reporters scrambled to file their stories, eager to share the latest development with the public. Cameras flashed as Musk emerged from the building, shielding his face from the bright lights. When asked for comment, he offered only a cryptic smile and walked briskly toward his waiting car. Speculation ran wild in the hours that followed. Was Musk sincere in his remarks, or was he merely trying to deflect criticism? Did his statement reveal a deeper understanding of his influence, or was it just another calculated move to win favor with the public? Opinions were divided, but one thing was certain. Musk's words had sparked a conversation that went far beyond the confines of the courtroom. That evening, as news outlets dissected every aspect of the day's events, social media platforms lit up with reactions. Memes, jokes, and hot takes flooded timelines, turning Musk's quote into a viral sensation. Some praised him for highlighting the potential of human inspiration, while others accused him of using clever rhetoric to distract from the core issue. Regardless of where people stood, it was impossible to ignore the fact that Musk had once again managed to dominate the narrative. What started as a routine legal hearing had transformed into something much bigger, a moment that challenged perceptions, sparked debates, and forced people to reconsider the role of influential figures in shaping society. For Musk himself, the day marked a turning point. Walking away from the courthouse, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The judge's warning lingered in his mind, but so did the reaction to his impromptu statement. He realized that his words truly did hold extraordinary power, power that extended far beyond financial markets or corporate boardrooms. They could spark hope, ignite change, and rally people toward a shared vision. As he sat alone in his car, staring out the window at the bustling cityscape, Musk allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. Perhaps this incident wasn't just a setback. Perhaps it was an opportunity to reflect, to grow, and to harness the full potential of his voice, not just as a businessman, but as a leader whose actions and words could shape the course of history. Little did he know, this moment would set the stage for a journey unlike any he had embarked upon before. It wouldn't be easy, and it certainly wouldn't be without controversy, but it would redefine how he viewed his place in the world and how the world viewed him. That night, as the city lights flickered outside his window, Elon Musk sat alone in his office replaying the events of the day in his mind. The courtroom felt like a distant memory now, but the weight of the judge's words, and his own response, lingered heavily. For years, Musk had been known for his boldness, his willingness to take risks, and his unfiltered approach to communication. But today, something felt different. It wasn't just the scrutiny or the legal battle that weighed on him. It was the realization that his words had power far beyond what he had ever fully acknowledged. Musk leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the judge's stern warning. Your words carry immense weight. At first, he had dismissed it as just another lecture, the kind he'd heard countless times before. But now, sitting in silence, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was truth in those words. His tweets, interviews, and public statements weren't just casual expressions of thought. They were catalysts. They moved markets, influenced decisions, and shaped perceptions. And while he had always embraced this reality as part of his role, he hadn't truly considered the broader implications until now. Then there was his own statement, the one that had sent ripples through the courtroom and beyond. If my words can change stock prices, imagine what they could do to inspire humanity. As he repeated the phrase silently to himself, he realized how much it revealed about his inner beliefs. Beneath all the bravado and ambition, Musk genuinely believed in the potential of humanity. He believed that people were capable of greatness, of solving problems, of reaching new heights. Yet, too often, he had used his platform to provoke, challenge, or entertain rather than to uplift and unite. Was it possible, he wondered, to channel his influence in a way that truly mattered? The idea began to take shape in his mind. What if he shifted his focus? Instead of using his voice to stir controversy or make headlines, what if he used it to inspire action? to encourage people to dream bigger, work harder, and believe in their ability to create change. The thought excited him. It wasn't about abandoning his entrepreneurial ventures or toning down his personality. It was about adding a new dimension to his public presence. A dimension rooted in purpose and positivity. The next morning, Musk arrived at work earlier than usual. He called a meeting with his closest advisors, a small group of trusted individuals who had been by his side through many ups and downs. When they gathered around the conference table, he surprised them by skipping the usual business updates and diving straight into a personal reflection. "Yesterday," he began, his tone unusually serious, "I realized something important. My words have power, not just to affect stocks or companies, but to affect people. Real people. And I want to use that power differently." His team listened intently, some exchanging curious glances. They were accustomed to Musk's unconventional ideas, but this was unexpected. One of his advisors raised an eyebrow and asked cautiously, "What exactly are you thinking?" Musk smiled faintly, his eyes lighting up with determination. "I'm thinking we start focusing more on inspiration, on reminding people of what's possible, not just through our products, but through our message, through me." Over the next few weeks, Musk threw himself into this new mission with characteristic intensity. He spent hours drafting posts, not tweets filled with cryptic jokes or bold predictions, but thoughtful reflections designed to spark meaningful conversations. Each message was carefully crafted, balancing optimism with realism, ambition with humility. In one post, he wrote about the importance of perseverance, sharing stories from his own life when failure seemed inevitable, but determination kept him going. In another, he highlighted the beauty of collaboration, emphasizing that humanity's greatest achievements were rarely the result of individual effort alone. These messages began appearing online, catching many by surprise. Followers who had grown accustomed to Musk's erratic social media behavior now found themselves reading posts that felt different. There was still the occasional playful jab or quirky observation, but these were interspersed with deeper, more introspective content. One post read simply, "Every problem we face is solvable. We just need the courage to believe it." Another said, "Dreams are powerful, but action makes them real. Start today." At first, reactions were mixed. Some fans praised Musk for his newfound maturity, calling his posts refreshing and inspiring. Others remained skeptical, accusing him of performing a calculated pivot to improve his image. Critics pointed out that inspirational quotes wouldn't erase past controversies or absolve him of responsibility for his actions. But despite the divided opinions, one thing was undeniable. Musk's words were resonating. People started sharing his posts widely, tagging friends and family members, and discussing them in online forums. Stories began pouring in from individuals who claimed Musk's messages had motivated them to pursue goals they had long abandoned or tackle challenges they had feared. One such story came from a young engineer named Sarah, who worked at a small startup struggling to secure funding. She later recounted how Musk's post about perseverance had reminded her why she had chosen her career path in the first place. "It sounds cheesy," she admitted in an interview, "but reading those words made me realize I wasn't alone, that even someone like Elon Musk has faced setbacks and kept going. It gave me hope." Inspired, Sarah rallied her team, reworked their pitch, and eventually secured the investment they needed to move forward. Her story went viral, further amplifying Musk's impact. Meanwhile, Musk continued refining his approach. He knew that words alone weren't enough. Actions spoke louder. So, alongside his digital outreach, he doubled down on efforts to make his companies more transparent and socially responsible. SpaceX announced initiatives to involve students in space exploration projects, offering scholarships and mentorship programs. Tesla unveiled plans to expand access to clean energy technologies in underserved communities. Even Neuralink, Musk's brain-computer interface venture, released updates highlighting its potential to improve lives, rather than merely showcasing cutting-edge science. As months passed, the shift became undeniable. Musk's public persona evolved from that of a polarizing figure to someone whose vision extended beyond profit margins. He still made headlines for his audacious projects and outspoken nature, but now those headlines often included mentions of his efforts to inspire and empower others. Interviews took on a different tone as well. Journalists noticed that Musk seemed more reflective, more willing to discuss not just his ambitions but also his vulnerabilities. "I've made mistakes," he admitted during one sit-down with a prominent tech magazine, "but I'm learning, and I think we all are." Behind the scenes, Musk's team marveled at the transformation. They had seen him weather storms before, but this felt different. This wasn't just adaptation, it was growth. As one advisor remarked privately, "He's finally seeing himself not just as a builder of rockets and cars, but as a builder of ideas, of hope." By the end of the year, the ripple effects of Musk's new direction were undeniable. Polls showed a significant increase in public approval ratings, particularly among younger generations who admired his blend of innovation and optimism. Schools and universities began incorporating his messages into leadership seminars and motivational talks. Entrepreneurs cited him as a source of encouragement, crediting his words with helping them overcome self-doubt and fear of failure. Even longtime critics softened their stance, acknowledging that Musk's evolution demonstrated a rare willingness to listen, learn, and evolve. Yet, Musk knew this journey was far from over. He understood that true change required consistency, patience, and authenticity. As he reflected on the progress made so far, he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the challenges that had pushed him to grow, for the people who had supported him along the way, and for the opportunity to redefine his legacy. The courtroom incident may have started as a moment of criticism, but it had become something greater, a catalyst for transformation. And as Musk looked toward the future, he did so with renewed purpose, ready to continue inspiring humanity, one word at a time. As the months rolled on, Elon Musk's transformation became more than just a personal journey. It started to influence the world around him in ways he hadn't fully anticipated. His posts, once dismissed by some as fleeting attempts at image repair, began to take on a life of their own. People weren't just reading them, they were acting on them. Stories poured in from all corners of the globe, each one highlighting how Musk's words had sparked change in someone's life. A teacher in India shared how his message about perseverance inspired her to start a free coding club for underprivileged children. A struggling artist in Brazil credited Musk's reflections on failure with giving him the courage to keep creating despite financial hardships. These stories weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a growing movement. Musk noticed this shift and decided to lean into it further. He launched a podcast called Beyond Earth, where he interviewed people who were making a difference in their fields. Unlike his usual high-profile appearances, this project was different. It wasn't about showcasing his achievements or debating technical details. It was about amplifying voices that might otherwise go unheard. Each episode featured scientists, activists, educators, and artists, all united by a common goal: to push humanity forward. After every conversation, Musk ended the show with a simple yet powerful call to action. What will you do today to make the world better? The response to the podcast was overwhelming. Listeners tuned in not just to hear Musk, but to learn from the guests he brought on. One episode featured a young climate activist who had spent years planting trees in deforested areas of Africa. Another highlighted a robotics engineer working on affordable prosthetics for amputees in developing countries. These stories resonated deeply with audiences, many of whom felt inspired to contribute in their own ways. Schools incorporated the E-Aiker podcast into lesson plans, community groups organized discussions around its themes, and social media buzzed with hashtags like Inspired by Elon and Make a Difference. But Musk didn't stop there. He realized that inspiration without tangible support was incomplete. True change required resources, connections, and opportunities. So, he announced the creation of a foundation aimed at funding innovative projects that aligned with his vision of progress. The foundation focused on 3 key areas: education, sustainability, and space exploration. Grants were awarded to startups developing green technologies, scholarships were given to students pursuing STEM careers, and partnerships were formed, with organizations working to clean up oceans and reduce carbon emissions. Musk made sure the process was transparent, inviting public input on which initiatives should receive funding. This move marked a turning point in how people viewed Musk. No longer was he seen solely as a tech mogul or a controversial figure. He was becoming a facilitator of global change. Critics who had long accused him of prioritizing profit over people began to soften their stance. While some still questioned his motives, others acknowledged that his actions spoke louder than any tweet or headline ever could. Even the judge from the courtroom incident, when asked about Musk's recent endeavors during an unrelated interview, admitted, "Perhaps Mr. Musk has found a way to channel his influence for good." Despite the positive reception, Musk faced challenges along the way. Not everyone embraced his new direction. Some fans missed the old Musk, the unpredictable, boundary-pushing provocateur who thrived on controversy. They felt his toned-down approach lacked the edge that had made him so captivating in the first place. Others argued that his efforts, while commendable, were too little, too late. "A few grants and motivational quotes won't fix systemic issues," one critic wrote in a widely shared article. "Real change requires structural reform, not feel-good gestures." Musk read these criticisms carefully, often late at night, when the noise of the day had quieted down. He knew they had merit. Inspiring individuals was one thing, but addressing deep-rooted problems like inequality, environmental degradation, and political polarization required more than words or even money. It demanded systemic solutions. Still, he believed that inspiration was a starting point. If enough people were motivated to act, collective efforts could lead to meaningful change. Rather than letting the negativity discourage him, he used it as fuel to refine his approach. One of the most significant moments came when Musk invited a group of grassroots activists to tour SpaceX's facilities. These activists, many of whom had never met a billionaire, let alone stepped foot inside a cutting-edge aerospace company, were initially skeptical. But as they walked through the sprawling campus, witnessing the intricate work that went into building rockets capable of reaching Mars, something shifted. They saw firsthand the scale of Musk's ambition, not just to build machines, but to expand humanity's horizons. During a Q&A session afterward, one activist stood up and said, "I came here thinking you were out of touch, but now I see that your dreams aren't just for yourself. They're for all of us." That moment stuck with Musk. It reinforced his belief that bridging gaps between different worlds, between innovators and activists, dreamers and doers, was essential. He began hosting regular roundtable discussions, bringing together leaders from diverse fields to brainstorm solutions to pressing global issues. These gatherings weren't about self-promotion, they were about collaboration. Musk often took a back seat during these meetings, listening more than speaking, allowing others to guide the conversation. It was a side of him few had seen before, a quieter, more introspective version of the man known for grand gestures and bold declarations. At the same time, Musk continued pushing boundaries in his core businesses. SpaceX achieved a major milestone by successfully launching its most ambitious mission yet, a spacecraft designed to carry humans to the Moon and eventually Mars. The achievement wasn't just a technological triumph, it was a testament to Musk's ability to balance idealism with execution. In interviews following the launch, he emphasized that the mission wasn't about colonizing other planets for the sake of conquest. It was about ensuring humanity's survival and inspiring future generations to look beyond Earth's limits. Tesla, meanwhile, unveiled a groundbreaking innovation: solar-powered charging stations that could operate entirely off-grid. This development addressed one of the biggest criticisms of electric vehicles, that they relied on energy grids still dependent on fossil fuels. By combining renewable energy with transportation, Tesla demonstrated that sustainability and convenience could coexist. Musk framed the announcement not as a product launch but as a step toward a cleaner, brighter future. "We're not just building cars," he said during the event. "We're building hope." As Musk's influence grew, so did his responsibility. He understood that being a public figure meant setting an example, not just in what he said, but in how he lived. He began adopting practices in his personal life that reflected the values he promoted. He reduced his reliance on private jets, opting instead for commercial flights whenever possible. He donated portions of his wealth to causes he believed in, often anonymously to avoid drawing attention. And he made a conscious effort to listen more, whether to employees within his companies or strangers who reached out with ideas or concerns. By the end of the year, Musk's evolution had become a topic of widespread discussion. Books were written analyzing his journey, documentaries explored the impact of his words and actions, and universities included case studies of his leadership style in their curricula. Yet, through it all, Musk remained grounded. He knew that true leadership wasn't about accolades or recognition, it was about service. Every decision he made, every word he spoke was guided by a singular question: how can I help humanity move forward? Looking back on the courtroom incident that had sparked this transformation, Musk couldn't help but smile. What had started as a moment of criticism had turned into a catalyst for growth, not just for him but for countless others. He realized that life's greatest lessons often come from unexpected places, and that even the harshest critiques can lead to profound change. As he prepared for the next chapter of his journey, he did so with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue inspiring humanity. One idea, one action, one connection at a time. As the new year began, Elon Musk found himself at a crossroads. The changes he had embraced over the past months had reshaped not only his public image, but also his understanding of leadership and responsibility. Yet, despite the progress, he knew there was still much work to be done. The world faced challenges that no single person, or even a group of people, could solve overnight. Climate change, inequality, and the rapid pace of technological advancement posed questions that demanded thoughtful answers. Musk realized that inspiration alone wasn't enough. It needed to be paired with action, collaboration, and innovation. One morning, as he sipped coffee in his office, Musk received an email from a high school student named Alex. The message was simple but heartfelt. "Your words made me believe I can make a difference. I've started a project to clean up our local river, but I need help getting tools and volunteers. Can you guide me?" Musk read the email several times, struck by its sincerity. He forwarded it to his team with a note: "Let's support this kid." Within days, Alex's project received funding, equipment, and publicity through Musk's foundation. More importantly, Musk personally reached out to Alex, offering advice and encouragement. Their exchange sparked a chain reaction, inspiring other young people to share their own initiatives. Before long, Musk's foundation was flooded with applications from students and community groups eager to tackle environmental issues. This unexpected surge of grassroots activism energized Musk. He saw potential in these small, localized efforts, a way to create large-scale impact by empowering individuals. To amplify their reach, he launched a global campaign called Local Heroes, designed to highlight and fund projects led by everyday people. The initiative focused on 3 pillars: sustainability, education, and health. Projects ranged from urban gardening programs in inner cities to mobile clinics providing free healthcare in rural areas. Each month, Musk featured one standout project on his social media platforms, shining a spotlight on the individuals behind them. "Change starts where you are," he wrote in one post. "Don't wait for permission to make a difference." The campaign quickly gained traction, drawing attention from governments, corporations, and nonprofits. Some organizations partnered with Musk to scale up successful projects, while others adopted similar models to encourage local innovation. What began as a personal effort to inspire soon evolved into a movement that transcended borders and industries. People who had never interacted with Musk directly felt connected to his vision, united by the belief that everyone had the power to contribute. Despite the growing success of his initiatives, Musk remained acutely aware of the criticisms leveled against him. Skeptics argued that his actions, though well-intentioned, were superficial compared to the systemic changes needed to address global crises. Others pointed out that his wealth and influence gave him opportunities unavailable to most people, making his calls for individual action seem unrealistic. Musk didn't shy away from these critiques. Instead, he invited critics to join him in finding solutions. In a widely shared video, he addressed the concerns head-on. "Yes, I have resources others don't, but I'm using them to create pathways for those who do. If you see a flaw in my approach, tell me. Let's fix it together." His openness to feedback resonated with many, including some former detractors. A prominent economist who had previously dismissed Musk's philanthropic efforts as performative wrote an op-ed praising his willingness to engage with criticism constructively. Perhaps what sets Musk apart isn't just his ambition, the economist noted, but his ability to adapt and grow when confronted with opposing views. This shift in perception opened doors for Musk to collaborate with experts across various fields, further expanding the scope of his initiatives. Meanwhile, Musk continued to push boundaries in his core ventures. SpaceX achieved another milestone by sending a crew of civilian astronauts, including teachers, scientists, and artists, on a mission to orbit Earth. The mission, dubbed Inspiration, aimed to demonstrate that space exploration wasn't limited to trained professionals or government agencies. It was a bold statement. Space belonged to everyone. During a live broadcast from the spacecraft, one of the astronauts, a middle school science teacher, looked into the camera and said, "To every child watching, remember this moment. You can dream big and you can achieve it." Musk watched the broadcast with a mix of pride and humility, realizing that his role was no longer just about building rockets. It was about creating moments like this. Tesla, too, continued to innovate. The company unveiled a revolutionary battery, technology that extended the lifespan of electric vehicles, reducing waste and making sustainable transportation more accessible. Musk framed the development not as a competitive advantage, but as a step toward a greener future. "We're sharing this technology with other automakers," he announced during a press conference. "Because the planet doesn't care whose logo is on the car. It cares whether we leave it better than we found it." The decision drew praise from environmentalists and industry leaders alike, marking a rare moment of unity in a highly competitive sector. Amidst these achievements, Musk faced personal challenges that tested his resolve. Running multiple companies, managing a foundation, and engaging with the public took a toll on his time and energy. There were days when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, and moments when doubt crept in. Could one person truly make a difference in a world so vast and complex? On such days, he reminded himself of the stories he had heard, from Alex cleaning up rivers to Sarah teaching children how to code. These reminders kept him grounded, reinforcing the belief that every effort mattered, no matter how small. Maintain balance. Musk adopted new habits. He started meditating regularly, something he had resisted for years, finding clarity and calm in moments of chaos. He also prioritized spending time with his family, recognizing that personal connections were essential for staying motivated. His children often joined him at work events, witnessing firsthand the impact of his efforts. One evening, after attending a charity gala, his youngest daughter turned to him and asked, "Dad, does helping people make you happy?" Musk smiled, surprised by the simplicity of the question. "Yes," he replied. "It makes me happier than anything else." As the year progressed, Musk's journey inspired others to embark on their own paths of growth and contribution. Tech entrepreneur based in Europe launched a program to mentor underprivileged youth, citing Musk's podcast as a source of motivation. A retired engineer in Australia dedicated his savings to building affordable housing for homeless families, inspired by Musk's emphasis on taking action. Even within his own companies, employees reported feeling more empowered to propose bold ideas, knowing that their leader valued creativity and purpose over profit margins. By the end of the year, Musk's transformation had become a case study in resilience and reinvention. Books, documentaries, and academic papers explored how a single moment of criticism had catalyzed a profound shift, not just in one man's life, but in the lives of countless others. Yet, Musk remained humble about his role in the broader narrative. In an interview reflecting on the past year, he said simply, "I'm just trying to do my part. We all have parts to play, and if we focus on doing them well, the rest will follow." Looking ahead, Musk envisioned a future where humanity worked together to overcome its greatest challenges. He imagined cities powered entirely by renewable energy, oceans teeming with life restored by conservation efforts, and stars within reach thanks to advancements in space travel. While he acknowledged that achieving these goals would require collective effort, he believed they were within humanity's grasp. "We've always been explorers, builders, dreamers," he said during a speech at a global summit. "And now, we have the tools to turn those dreams into reality." For Musk, the courtroom incident that had once seemed like a setback had become a defining chapter in his story. It had taught him the value of listening, learning, and evolving. More importantly, it had shown him the power of words, not to provoke or entertain, but to inspire and unite. As he prepared for the next phase of his journey, he did so with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue proving that even the smallest actions could spark monumental change. As the years rolled on, Elon Musk's influence continued to grow, not just as a businessman or inventor, but as a catalyst for collective action. What had started as a personal quest to inspire humanity had evolved into something much larger, a global movement driven by shared purpose and collaboration. People from all walks of life were stepping up, taking responsibility for their communities and working together to solve problems that once seemed insurmountable. Musk, now deeply embedded in this ecosystem of change, found himself playing a unique role, part leader, part facilitator, and part storyteller. One of the most remarkable shifts came in how people viewed failure. In the past, Musk's own setbacks, failed rocket launches, production delays at Tesla, public controversies, had often been seen as cautionary tales, but now they were reframed as lessons in resilience. Through his podcast and interviews, he openly discussed moments when he had doubted himself, made mistakes, or faced overwhelming odds. He emphasized that failure wasn't the end, it was a stepping stone to success. This message resonated deeply, especially with younger generations who were navigating uncertain times. A teenager named Mia, inspired by one of Musk's reflections, reached out to share her story. She had struggled with self-doubt after failing an important exam, but decided to try again after hearing him say, "Every great achievement is built on a foundation of failures." Her second attempt earned her top marks, and she went on to pursue a career in renewable energy engineering. Musk's ability to connect with individuals like Mia became a cornerstone of his evolving legacy. He understood that inspiration wasn't about grand gestures, it was about meeting people where they were and helping them find their own path forward. To strengthen these connections, he launched a mentorship program called Pathfinders. The initiative paired aspiring innovators with experienced professionals across various fields, from aerospace to agriculture. Participants weren't just given advice. They were provided with resources, networking opportunities, and hands-on support. One participant, a young woman named Layla, developed a low-cost water purification system under the guidance of a senior engineer. When her invention saved lives in a drought-stricken region, she credited the program and Musk for believing in her potential. While Musk's efforts focused heavily on empowering others, he also remained committed to pushing boundaries in his own ventures. SpaceX achieved another historic milestone with the successful deployment of Starlink satellites designed to provide internet access to remote areas. For many communities cut off from modern technology, this meant access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities for the first time. Musk framed the project not as a commercial endeavor, but as a humanitarian mission. "Knowledge is power," he said during a press conference, "and no one should be denied access to it because of where they live." Tesla, meanwhile, unveiled a groundbreaking innovation, a modular electric vehicle platform that could be customized for different uses, from transporting goods to serving as mobile clinics. The design prioritized affordability and adaptability, ensuring that sustainable transportation reached even the most underserved regions. Musk described the launch as a step toward democratizing clean energy. "We're not building cars for the wealthy," he explained. "We're building solutions for the planet." Despite these achievements, Musk faced ongoing challenges. Critics argued that his initiatives, while impactful, were still limited in scope compared to the scale of global crises. Others questioned whether his actions were motivated by genuine altruism or a desire to secure his place in history. Musk listened to these critiques carefully, acknowledging their validity without letting them derail his focus. Instead of defending himself, he doubled down on transparency. He began hosting town hall meetings, inviting people from all backgrounds to ask questions, share concerns, and offer suggestions. These sessions, broadcast live online, allowed Musk to engage directly with those affected by his work. They also revealed a side of him few had seen before: vulnerable, reflective, and deeply human. One particularly memorable town hall took place in a small farming community struggling with climate-related crop failures. Farmers expressed frustration over the lack of affordable tools to adapt to changing conditions. Musk listened intently, taking notes and asking follow-up questions. By the end of the session, he had pledged funding for a pilot program to develop climate-resilient farming equipment. More importantly, he promised to visit the community regularly to monitor progress and address challenges. His willingness to listen and act earned him respect among skeptics who had previously dismissed him as out of touch. As Musk's reputation grew, so did his influence on policy and governance. World leaders began seeking his input on issues ranging from space exploration treaties to renewable energy strategies. While some saw this as a conflict of interest, Musk approached these discussions with caution, emphasizing the importance of collective decision-making. "I'm not here to dictate solutions," he told a gathering of diplomats. "I'm here to contribute ideas and learn from you." His humility surprised many, including seasoned politicians accustomed to egos, clashing in high-stakes negotiations. Back home, Musk continued nurturing the culture of innovation within his companies. Employees reported feeling more empowered than ever to propose bold ideas, knowing that their leader valued creativity and impact over profit margins. At SpaceX, a junior engineer's suggestion led to the development of a new material that reduced spacecraft weight without compromising safety. At Tesla, a factory worker's idea streamlined production processes, saving both time and resources. Musk celebrated these contributions publicly, reinforcing the belief that everyone had the power to make a difference. Perhaps the most profound change occurred in how Musk viewed his own legacy. Once obsessed with leaving a mark through monumental projects like colonizing Mars, he now saw his true impact in the everyday actions of ordinary people. Whether it was a teacher using Starlink to educate students in a remote village, or a farmer adopting sustainable practices thanks to his foundation's support, these stories reminded him that greatness wasn't measured by headlines but by hearts touched. During a quiet moment at home, he reflected on this realization. "It's not about me," he wrote in a private journal entry. "It's about what we can achieve together." By the decade's end, Musk's journey had come full circle. From the courtroom incident that forced him to confront the power of his words to the global movement he helped spark. Every step had shaped him into someone far different from the brash entrepreneur of earlier years. Yet, despite the transformation, one thing remained constant: his unwavering belief in humanity's potential. In speeches, interviews, and casual conversations, he reiterated this belief, urging people to dream bigger, act bolder, and trust in their ability to create change. The final chapter of Musk's story was far from written, but its themes were clear. It was a tale of growth, resilience, and the enduring power of hope. It was proof that even the harshest criticisms could lead to profound self-discovery, and that true leadership wasn't about commanding attention but about inspiring action. As Musk looked toward the future, he did so with gratitude for the challenges that had shaped him, for the people who had supported him, and for the countless lives he had yet to touch. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: the journey was just beginning. Years passed, and Elon Musk's journey continued to unfold in ways that surprised even him. What had started as a moment of criticism in a courtroom had blossomed into a lifelong mission, a relentless pursuit of progress, not just for himself, but for humanity as a whole. The world around him had changed too. New challenges emerged, old ones persisted, and the pace of life seemed faster than ever. Yet through it all, Musk remained a constant force, a figure who inspired both admiration and debate, action and reflection. One of the most striking aspects of Musk's later years was how his influence transcended industries and generations. Young innovators looked up to him, not because of his wealth or fame, but because of his willingness to take risks and embrace failure. Schools began teaching case studies on his projects, from SpaceX's early struggles to Tesla's groundbreaking advancements. Teachers encouraged students to think like Musk, to dream big, question norms, and never settle for good enough. Meanwhile, older generations found inspiration in his ability to reinvent himself. Retirees started second careers, entrepreneurs launched new ventures, and community leaders tackled local issues with renewed energy, all motivated by the idea that it was never too late to make a difference. Musk's role evolved alongside this growing movement. He no longer saw himself as the sole driver of change, but rather as part of a larger tapestry of efforts. His companies became hubs for collaboration, bringing together experts from diverse fields to solve complex problems. At SpaceX, engineers worked alongside climate scientists to develop technologies that could combat global warming. At Tesla, designers partnered with urban planners to create sustainable cities powered entirely by renewable energy. Even his foundation expanded its reach, funding initiatives that ranged from AI ethics research to ocean conservation efforts. Musk often joked that he felt more like a matchmaker than a CEO, connecting people, ideas, and resources to spark innovation. Despite his success, Musk remained deeply aware of the imperfections in his approach. He knew that no single person or organization could solve the world's problems alone. That's why he placed such emphasis on empowering others. One of his proudest achievements came when a group of former Pathfinders mentees launched their own initiative called Ripple Effect. The program focused on training young leaders in underserved communities, equipping them with the skills and confidence to tackle local challenges. Within months, Ripple Effect spread to dozens of countries, creating networks of changemakers who supported one another across borders. When asked about the program's rapid growth, Musk smiled and said simply, "It's proof that inspiration is contagious." As time went on, Musk's personal life also underwent significant changes. After years of intense focus on work, he made a conscious effort to slow down and savor moments with family and friends. Weekends were spent hiking with his children, tinkering with inventions in his garage, or hosting gatherings where conversations flowed freely. These quieter moments reminded him of what truly mattered: connection, joy, and the simple pleasures of being alive. They also gave him clarity, allowing him to step back and see the bigger picture. In interviews, he spoke candidly about the importance of balance. "You can't pour from an empty cup," he told a reporter. "If you want to help others, you first need to take care of yourself." Musk's humility deepened as he grew older. He stopped measuring success by milestones or accolades and instead focused on impact, on the lives touched and improved. This shift became evident in how he chose to spend his time. Rather than attending glamorous events or seeking media attention, he preferred visiting schools, factories, and community centers. There, he listened to people's stories, shared meals with workers, and rolled up his sleeves to help wherever needed. During one such visit to a rural village powered by Starlink, a farmer approached him with tears in his eyes. "Your satellites saved my crops," the man said. "Thank you." Musk shook his hand, visibly moved, and replied, "No, thank you. You're the one doing the hard work." By the time Musk reached his later years, his legacy was undeniable, but it wasn't defined by rockets, cars, or financial achievements. It was defined by the countless individuals he had inspired to believe in themselves and act on their dreams. From the teenager building robots in her garage to the retired teacher planting trees in her neighborhood, Musk's impact rippled far beyond anything he could have imagined. Historians would later point to this era as a turning point in human history, an age when collective effort began to outweigh individual ambition. Even as his health declined with age, Musk refused to slow down completely. He continued writing, speaking, and mentoring, using every opportunity to remind people of their potential. In one of his final public appearances, frail but smiling, he addressed a crowd of young innovators at a global summit. "I've made many mistakes," he admitted, his voice steady despite his frailty. "But I've learned something important along the way. We are capable of extraordinary things when we come together. Don't wait for permission to lead. Don't fear failure. Just start, because the world needs you." When Musk passed away, the outpouring of grief and gratitude was overwhelming. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, celebrating not just his accomplishments but the spirit he had embodied. Memorials were held in spaceships, classrooms, and community gardens, places that symbolized the breadth of his influence. Yet perhaps the most fitting tribute came from a child who wrote a letter to her future self. "Dear me, remember that Elon Musk taught us we can do anything if we try. So go ahead and try." In the years that followed, Musk's vision lived on through the movements he had sparked and the people he had inspired. Cities thrived on clean energy, oceans teemed with restored ecosystems, and humans took their first steps toward becoming an interplanetary species. None of it happened overnight, and none of it was perfect, but it was progress. And in the end, that's what Musk had always believed in: the power of progress, driven by hope, courage, and the unshakable belief that humanity could rise to meet any challenge. Looking back, it was clear that Musk's story wasn't just about one man. It was about all of us. It was a reminder that greatness isn't reserved for a select few. It's within everyone's grasp. It was proof that words, when spoken with sincerity, could ignite change. And it was evidence that even the smallest actions, when multiplied by millions, could transform the world. As the stars shone brightly above Earth, carrying the light of exploration and possibility, they served as a silent testament to a man who had dared to dream and inspired others to do the same.